Welcome back, friends and family of the internet, for another amazing episode here at Starkey Farmstead. So my name is Samantha Starkey, and I just wanted to go out and say thank you, guys. Thank you to everybody who has been purchasing our book, Growing Under a Poisoned Sky. This is a birthing of something beautiful. And I just wanted to say a lovely subscriber and supporter of my channel has picked up 5 of these for me to autograph and then auction here on the channel. So I have no clue how to do that. I'm turning 51 tomorrow. We're lucky I can run my videos like this. I learned a new skill. Let's not push it, right? I guess what I'm asking is if you were interested in purchasing one of these books directly from me, autographed, then make a bid. So let me tell you why I'm doing it this way. My husband has a brain aneurysm at 46. My dog went down really hard 3 weeks ago, and he ate through pretty much all my savings. And at this point, Stephen is going to be missing 7 days of work over the next 4.5 weeks as we go through CAT scans and MRIs and prepare for surgery, which will then be a multiple week missing. I still don't know if they're going to coil or remove the aneurysm. I do know that he has sinus surgery coming up. We just haven't set all that up. They want to get, blood work done, CAT scans done. I have a whole video out about his brain aneurysm if you want more information on that. Like most of you, we don't have credit cards. We refuse to use them. So it's making me learn to walk in faith. So this is a way for me to be able to bring a little extra money into our family and give you something back in return for it. An autographed copy directly from me to you. So if you would like one of those, I only have 5. Let me know in the comments or just reach out to me through email or inbox me on Facebook or, make a love donation. And in the memo, put your phone number and say, call me, I want the book. And I'll reach back out to you folks. It's hard right now. It really is. But, it is what it is, right? It's life. I just want to give back rather than, asking. I don't want anybody to ever feel like we're asking you to help in any way that you don't receive back something of equal or more value. So I want to do this video with you. What is going on with the weather? I know you guys have heard that they are spraying glyphosate all over Canada right now. And if they're doing that in Canada, right? Like the most woke of woke areas. Sorry, guys in Canada that are conservatives. You know what I'm talking about. Imagine that floating, because you have to think of rivers and streams as arteries and veins. They spray glyphosate in Canada. It's woofing and wafting and flowing into America, right? But I want you to hear something that I found when I was researching this. This was 16 years ago. 16 years ago. Listen to this.
Study how people respond to different kinds of information that's given to them. I don't think that there's enough research to show how people conceptualize their personal risk in this kind of event. It's probably the same for earthquakes and other natural disasters. I think we really need to take a careful look at that, because we could have the greatest science and have the best knowledge of the physical dimensions of the impending event, but if we can't communicate it, it's not going to make a difference.
Let me just ask one other line of questioning to anyone who would wish to respond. In the bill that I'm putting forward, it's trying to study the present and the past to see if there is any future in weather modification. In other words, just as an example, I don't know if this is possible, but I think we ought to be looking at it. If you see a certain type of hurricane 100 miles out in the Atlantic, and is there something that could be done there that wouldn't stop it but might make it less powerful when it comes into Florida or into Mississippi or Louisiana or Texas or Alabama? Is there something that we haven't looked at from the past that would give us an indication of maybe a mitigation of the impact, because the damages are so much higher now than they have ever been because of the intensity? So my question is to anyone. Yes.
Senator Hutchison, it's a very important question you ask, and one that, as your bill states, got a lot of looking at in the 70s, but there was then a drought, so to speak, of weather mitigation activities. I'd like to make 4 points with regard to modification. I think number one is you really need good numerical forecast models to do weather modification, especially of hurricanes, because you need to know that the modification you're going to try to impute to the hurricane will have the intended effect. And so that's a challenge in and of itself, and it really requires the best research and the best forecast technology you could possibly have. And you know, we have run simulations of tornadic thunderstorms, of hurricanes, and we know through our simulations anyway that in fact there's no question you can change the course of a hurricane, you can kill it off, you can kill off a thunderstorm before it produces a tornado. But that brings me to the second point, is how do you actually then implement that change? And that's really an engineering problem.
Did you guys hear? Let me slow on back down because I had sped it up because she spoke so slow. I'm sorry. I am too from the South, but she talked like this and I couldn't do it. I had to speed her up. So I'm going to rewind it just a hair bit here for you guys to hear what this gentleman just admitted. We would need better forecasting equipment so that we could track how well the weather modification worked, or whether or not it did at all, or whether it caused more damage. Now, this was 16 years ago. I want you to think about the past 16 years and how many billions of dollars NOAA and all these HAARP and DARPA and all of these organizations have been getting where weather is concerned. You know why? Because they were tracking what they were doing.
Modification, especially of hurricanes, because you need to know that the modification you're going to try to impute to the hurricane will have the intended effect. And so that's a challenge in and of itself, and it really requires the best research and the best forecast technology you could possibly have. And you know, we have run simulations of tornadic thunderstorms, of hurricanes, and we know through our simulations anyway that in fact there's no question you can change the course of a hurricane, you can kill it off, you can kill off a thunderstorm before it produces a tornado. But that brings me to the second point, is how do you actually then implement that change? And that's really an engineering problem. And there have been some far-ranging, you might say, approaches proposed, all the way from launching ballistic missiles into thunderstorms to doing all kinds of things in space for hurricanes. That is the real challenge of how do you actually deliver the disruptive influence that will change the course. We know in our simulation models, we don't say how we're doing it, we just cool the ocean surface temperature, and sure enough, the hurricane dies. But then the question is, how do you actually do that? So the first point really is you have to have good forecast models to know that the change you're trying to achieve, and in fact is the one that's going to occur. You're going to get what you asked for. Second thing is really the issue of how do you deliver the influence. The third one is an interesting one, and that is the unintended consequence. For example, hurricanes, although they are destructive, they have some very positive aspects as well in terms of bringing fresh water inland. There is a lot of flooding, but they are an important source of water recharge in the hydrology system. Another thing about hurricanes that's very interesting, we don't know why they exist. We know why weather occurs. It's the atmosphere's way of trying to reduce imbalances of temperature between the cold poles and the warm equator, and it never is successful at doing that because the sun keeps shining all the time. Hurricanes, we don't know why they're there. We don't know what purpose they play. And so that has interesting implications in the climate system. If you got rid of all hurricanes, for example, what impacts might that have on the climate? And this is where numerical models come into play. And when we actually are able to resolve hurricanes with climate models, which we can do now, we can run 100-year climate simulations. And when a hurricane starts to form, we can kill it off and then compare that simulation with the case where the hurricane is actually allowed to continue. So the third point is really one of unintended consequences. The fourth one is really relates to ethics and legal issues. And I know you run into this in Texas, we do in Oklahoma and in Kansas, where you're doing rainfall enhancement studies or hail suppression. You're spending a lot of money actually doing that, in the private sector. And somebody in Texas says, well, you've bled all of the water out of my clouds in Oklahoma Panhandle, and the farmers in southwest Kansas get very upset. So it brings in a lot of interesting legal challenges as you cross state lines and geopolitical barriers and things like that.
I have told y'all time and time again, cloud seeding for droughts is actually unethical. It is stealing rain that would naturally fall on in another area for this area. So say you have a rich area in Texas that doesn't want a drought because what happened? They didn't plan well. Like, I mean, let's be honest. Americans are not always the brightest, right? And the people who plan our neighborhoods and nonsense. I mean, come on. Do we really need Las Vegas in the middle of a desert with millions of people living out there in the middle of a desert? So now you want to steal water that would belong to the next state over, the next town over, because you didn't plan appropriately. I'm just saying, folks, this was 16 years ago. The Commerce Committee hearing regarding weather modification.
Like that. But I do think, and I read your bill, and I think it really is time for the nation to get serious again about weather modification. And as your bill pointed out, and as the National Research Council study showed, there really is no compelling evidence that this works. But we have much more powerful observing systems now, which we need: mobile radars, ground-based radars, things like that, aircraft, and especially numerical models. So I think
we need radars, mobile radar. We need radar. We need radar, right? Let's talk about that a little further, friends and family of the internet. We need radar. Okay.
Meteorologist Matt Gray is here to show you this technological breakthrough. Matt.
This might be the coolest thing I've reported on, and I've done quite a few things in about 10 years in this business. Take a look at this picture. This shows lightning being directed along a laser beam for the very first time. This could be the biggest thing in lightning safety since, wait for it, Ben Franklin invented the lightning rod in the 1760s. Lightning rods, they've saved countless lives and property over the centuries, but they do have their limits. See, the taller you make a lightning rod, the more it can protect. But when it comes to things like sports stadiums, power plants, or the Spokane International Airport, you start talking about towers of impractical size. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 foot tall tower right next to an airport is not the best idea. But what if you could extend a traditional lightning rod using lasers? That is what a group of European scientists tried on a mountain peak in Switzerland. In the experiment, they pulsed this laser beam over the top of the radio tower on the mountain peak during thunderstorms. What the laser does is that it heats up the air that it's passing through. This creates a path that conducts electricity better than the air around it. So during the experiment, the lightning took the path created by that laser between the thunderstorm cloud and the tower 4 separate times. Not only that, the path of lightning strikes around the mountain were closer to the tower when the laser was on than when the laser was off. Because of that laser, you ended up with an extra 200 feet around the tower that had more protection from lightning. So let's get one thing clear.
No, let's get one thing clear. If you can send a laser up and pull lightning to the spot that you want, then you can guarantee that this technology became available to universities and governmental agencies after the military had decided how they would use it as a weapon.
Before we go any further with this laser, it's about the size of a car. It draws a lot of power. There's more experiments and a lot of laser technological development that's got to happen before your kids are going to get laser lightning protection at their side.
That was 2 years ago. Yes, 2 years ago, Spokane, Washington. All of this will be listed in the description of the video. Now, let's talk about Nova Scotia approving glyphosate spraying on 3,577 acres of drought-stricken, fire-prone forest. Residents are uneasy as thousands of acres of forest in Nova Scotia are being sprayed with glyphosate. Look at this. Look at this photo. Y'all, for the love of God, where do they get these idiots who call themselves scientists, the Faucis of the world? Where do they find them? The use of glyphosate, a widely used herbicide known for targeting plants And let me tell you guys something. Glyphosate targets broad leaf. That is the type of plant it goes for. That is why people who accidentally, who are doing the no-till in their garden like I do, and they need to heavy mulch, if they bring in something that has been sprayed like hay with glyphosate, then they realize like, oh, fiddle my sticks. I can't grow anything with a broad leaf. No spinach, no kale, no pumpkin, nothing. Okay. Well, a lot of people are angry. Look at that big F word. Others suggested that the forest closures might be linked to unlawful activities, with one remarking, it's closed because they do illegal stuff there, which nobody should see from the public. I did a video not long ago about what was going on in our national and state parks. I hope some of you that are new to my channel will go check those out. All of this is connected. That's why I tell y'all, I just kind of let the Holy Spirit lead me every day. I go to bed at night. A lot of times I have no idea what my videos are going to look like for the next day. And sometimes I will do research for 2 or 3 days and the Lord will throw the video out. He's like, you're not ready for that. I don't want to do that. Just hold off on this. And I really do try to wait, because inevitably when it comes from God, it hits different. And you guys know that when the video is done in my flesh or just me looking for something to talk about versus the videos that the Holy Spirit leads, they hit different. By the way, YouTube does not pay me. If you'd like to support our channel, I'm going to give you the newsletter and invite you to Zooms. Do you have to get those 2 things? No. If everybody would please pray about sending $1, you quit hearing me ask everybody to send $1. Glyphosate inhibits a key enzyme necessary for plant growth. It is particularly controversial in contexts relating to human health and biodiversity. We talk about glyphosate in our book. The sentiment in local forums is heavily negative, with many expressing outrage at the government's actions. Concerns range from environmental degradation to potential public health risk. As glyphosate is heavily utilized in agriculture and forestry, the implications of its use during forest closures could impact both community and ecological health. Glyphosate is a synthetic herbicide. It actually comes from leftover World War II war chemicals. Everything comes from the military. That's kind of the point of this, is to show you how everything that we use today is just a leftover. By the way, if you ever heard about Roundup, a lot of people use Roundup. I often have these discussions, I won't call them arguments, with people on Facebook about growing food because they think it's perfectly okay to use Roundup. And I'm like, stop, it's ridiculous. There are lawsuits that have been going on for years now because of what Roundup does to the health of people. Look it up. Don't argue with me. Literally stop and look it up if you have a problem with what I said. It says there is a strong chance that community backlash will intensify in response to the glyphosate spraying in Nova Scotia. Reflecting on the past, one might draw a curious parallel to the 1970s debates over the use of DDT. Similar to today's glyphosate discussion, DDT use was initially justified for its effectiveness, but soon faced staunch opposition due to environmental and health concerns. Farmers have a heavy reliance on it, mirrors what Nova Scotia faces today, where the prevailing agricultural practices conflict with the community's ecological values. Mark my words, they're going to do this. Then they're going to realize how dangerous glyphosate is. Then they're going to make it illegal. And what happens when they all of a sudden say, okay, no farmer can use any form of glyphosate, right? No type of herbicides anymore, anywhere in North America. That's Canada, America, whatever. Yeah, that's great. It's great for the soil. It's great for the environment. It is terrible for the farmer because you have already killed everything in your soil. And without these types of chemicals, you can't grow food. So you're going to have a hit where food availability comes in. Again, that is something I actually tackle in this book. I bring that up to you. I'm like, it takes years to bring your soil back to life. And I'm telling you guys, if you haven't started on a small garden patch, you're running out of time, friend. All right, let's get into this one. This is a video that one of my amazing subscribers, you left it in comments. I read everybody's comment on this channel. I looked it up and found it, and I was shocked. So let's hear what CBS admitted to.
Talking about climate change yesterday, and now we're learning that scientists and researchers are looking at how to change the weather on purpose. That's right. Lasers now could one day manipulate rain and lightning. CBS This Morning contributor Michio Kaku is a physics professor at City College of New York. Professor, nice to see you. Extraordinary seeing Al Gore and Bill Clinton there together with Charlie, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, they did not get into this discussion,
No.
though. But it is fascinating. I mean, lasers, really, to change the weather?
That's right. Well, as Mark Twain once famously said, everyone complains about the weather, but no one ever does anything about it. Well, instead of doing a rain dance, we physicists are firing trillion-watt lasers into the sky to actually precipitate rain clouds and actually bring down lightning bolts. This is potentially a game changer.
But this is experimental.
Sweet Jesus. Those lasers that held Hurricane Helene in place and made it rain and rain until people in multiple states were sliding down the mountainsides with everything they owned.
It's experimental. However, in the laboratory so far it works. When you have water vapor and you have dust particles or ice crystals, you can precipitate rain. It condenses around the seeds. These seeds can also be created by laser beams. By firing trillion-watt lasers, you rip apart the electrons, creating what are called ions, and these ions act like seeds, like dust particles, bringing down rain and even lightning.
Go ahead.
Well,
And now you know why they call it cloud seeding.
This fascinates me in part because, too, I remember reading the stories that China had used this during the Olympics, that the USSR had used this after Chernobyl to create rain clouds. I mean, did those really work then?
Yeah, she conveniently forgot to say, I love how they manipulate what people believe. America started this. Okay, we got it from the Germans after the Holocaust, which was a real thing, in case you didn't know. The scientists that did those horrific things to those Jewish people were brought in and they were put into NASA. They started NOAA, and they promised our military that they could turn weather into a weapon, which is what they did during Vietnam, during Operation Popeye.
Have some of these capabilities now?
Inconclusive. Even in the 60s, the CIA used this to bring down monsoons during the Vietnam War, to wash out the Viet Cong. Governments have been playing with this thing.
Alleged to.
Alleged to, right.
Yeah.
Now, we realize that for decades now, these governments have been alleged to have experimented with weather control, but nothing conclusive. This time we're bringing in the laws of physics rather than simply waving our hands and uttering mumbo jumbo. We're actually using trillion-watt lasers now. And in the laboratory, sure enough, they precipitate rain out of water vapor. Sure enough, you can actually bring down electricity down the beam.
So what does it mean for drought areas that need to have rain for crops? And if they don't have them, there's the consequences of famine.
Well, the bad news is if it's a clear blue sky, it's not going to do anything at all, because it only takes water vapor that's already in the air and condenses it. However, for floods, for agriculture, farmers, for people waiting.
Watch her. She's waiting to catch him if he doesn't use the word alleged. She is, oh wow. Trained well.
Parties, football games, you name it, outdoor events and agriculture and flooding and even hurricanes. All of them could be subject to weather modification.
Incredibly.
God, thank you, Jesus. I feel so vindicated. Don't you guys feel vindicated? Congratulations, watchers on the wall. You are not crazy, friends and family at the internet. Let's go to Maui. Everybody knows my heart. I love the people of this island, desperately love them. Call them friends and family. So many of you I've met.
Are you starting to connect the dots yet?
Did you understand what you saw? Did you understand what you saw, friends and family? Watch it again. This is directed energy weapons. This is them actually happening. Wait. Okay, this is how they do it. They come, they have the weapon. Let's slow it down so everybody can really see it. All right, let's do it. Here comes the military plane, right? This is right before, it's the night before the fires in Maui. Many of them they're dropping.
Are you starting to connect the dots?
Are you starting to connect the dots? This was 4 months ago. Radio wave weapon that takes down drones. This is, and it even says it.
Hi, my name's Adam and I work in defence equipment and support within the weapons area, working on novel weapons and in particular radio frequency directed energy weapons.
Radio frequency directed weapons.
So what we've got behind us here is an example of a radio frequency directed energy weapon. This particular example was developed for the purposes of trials and experimentation. This system is not going into service and it's comprised of a number of components. At the front end, the effector generates a very intense beam of radio frequency energy and then through this antenna directs that onto a target. We have a high performance radar sensor system that detects, tracks and targets small objects flying in the air like drones. The mission module houses the stations where the operator and commander sit and control the weapon system. Up at the back here, these white objects are the antennas for the wide area surveillance radar to track and manage multiple small drone targets. On top of the effector is a small targeting camera that's used by the operators to zoom in and identify the specific target that they're going to take out with the effector. This effector, it integrates a whole turret or a gimbal system that enables it to swivel and pan up and down so it can direct the beam anywhere in this area. A radio frequency directed energy weapon really comes into its own in being able to reach out and shut down electronics at range. It's very distinct from an electronic warfare system like a jammer, where a jammer denies the target the use of its comms links or whatever else. An RF weapon is using radio frequency energy to get into that target and disrupt or damage its components directly. The real benefit of that means it is able to interact with the target instantaneously and then leave a lasting effect. So where
Wow. Wow. Remember this, Florida? All my Florida people, you guys remember this?
Green light flash across your screen a couple of times. It's puzzling neighbors in Cape Coral, but this is actually the cause. It's a plane flying low over people's homes, scanning the ground with that green laser. Welcome back. I'm Chris Safadi.
And I'm Lois Tomey. So what does this plane, what is it doing? Awake News anchor Annette Montgomery joins us in the studio. And Annette, what did you learn?
Well, Chris and Lois, I learned who it's not after reaching out to everyone from the city of Cape Coral to the county to the Florida Division of Emergency Management to the South Florida Water District and Port Authority. Now, these low-flying planes with green lasers does not belong to them. One neighbor got so fed up, she purchased a flight radar to help narrow down the search for the owner. It's not something you see every day.
Oh, geez, it was, it went back and forth. At least, I would say 40 minutes to an hour.
But for people living in Cape Coral, they've been seeing it a lot this week.
It was really late at night. It was kind of around midnight. And I was actually in my car. I was just getting home, and I saw it going back and forth with a laser beam, and it scanned over me multiple times, and it was just moving. It was scanning the whole area, every square footage, basically, going just forth.
That low-flying plane was in Casey Sutton's neighborhood for hours Sunday night. Philip Bertolio saw it the same day, but a few hours earlier while watching the Super Bowl game.
When it came by, you could see the green laser light spread out, like it was mapping. We heard someone was mapping the area is what we were told. And it kept going in a north and south direction, and it would just go farther to the west. It kept going north and south and come.
It's the first time these neighbors saw a sight like this while looking up at the night sky. So Casey decided to track down who the plane and its lasers belong to.
I've never had flight radar until this happened, because I'm like, what the heck is going on? But it shows that what kind of plane it was and what type of plane. But I don't know who owns it. It just says private owner.
When you put the information Casey provided into the FAA website, it comes back with this information saying it's registered to Randigo LLC. But it's unclear who or what they're doing.
We just want to know what's going on. Why we're being scanned.
I also reached out to the U.S. Geological Survey as they are doing some mapping and data collection involving low-flying planes right now. But they told me not only do their planes fly during the day, they also don't use green lasers. I'm still waiting to hear back from the NOAA. I did speak with a representative over the phone, but she was unable to confirm or deny if these planes belong to them.
NOAA. Noah. What did Jesus tell us? He would be returning and things would be like in the days of Noah. I do want to tell you guys, if you try to fact check this and if you just type in, they're going to tell you it's not true. But you just watched one video after another put out by the government and news media telling you, even your Senate committees, it is true. Space weather refers to the variable conditions in the space environment between the sun and the earth that can affect systems and technologies in orbit and on earth. Space weather modification technology has advanced to the point where our own environment is now being used as weapons, and the stakes could not be higher. If you thought the Cold War was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet. This hidden history is now exposed in the following series of articles and interactive timelines and a map of 3 currently operational ionospheric heaters. So they're heating up the ionosphere, and they're also spraying that area as well as stratosphere, which is in the ionosphere, with lots of heavy metals. One is to reflect the sun back at itself. So we get stuck with the heat and not the benefits of the sun. Folks, Leslie and I are very soon going to start working on the second book, and it's basically going to be a series, Growing Under a Poison Sky. Again, I've got 5 of these to raffle off to the highest bidders. I'm trying to be a Proverbs wife. Right? I don't sew, so I can't go out and sell belts and clothing, but I can offer my knowledge and my signature with the book. That's what I've got. And I'm just trying to do my end to help alleviate the stress that my husband is under. Tomorrow is my birthday. I turn 51. My mother turns 82. We share a birthday. I love you guys so much. I'm done. I cooked supper earlier, but I'd like to do some organic vegetables with it, and my husband's fixing to get home. I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that it made you feel vindicated and maybe filled in a few things you didn't understand or didn't know. I saw people asking what I know is, like real questions, but it's hard to answer people in the comment section without sounding like I'm either grumpy or snarky when I'm usually neither one of them. It's just, I'm short. I answer over 103, almost 104,000 comments in a week. And as far as I know, I'm like the only YouTube channel that does that. So I love you guys so much. Be blessed. Watch out for those lasers.